Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So, we are back with CIS Top 20 Control Series today. Let's begin with our presentation without wasting any time. So, I would be discussing CIS Control 20, which is penetration test and red teaming exercises in accordance with the control version 7.1, wherein it is numbered as Control 18 in accordance with the version 8.0. So let me introduce myself before going ahead. I am Muskan Mangla, an information security consultant and a certified ethical hacker. I am currently pursuing my master's in cybersecurity from Dublin. I am a bug hunter and received Hall of Fame from Google and others through Vulnerability Disclosure Program. I am a proud member of Breaking Barriers Women in Cybersecurity and an ambassador at Rainbow Secure. I have been speaking at multiple information security conferences and a contributor at the open source opportunities. Let's talk about today's agenda. So I would be discussing control definition requirements, implementations, and then I'll talk about risk associated or impacts and benefits. In the end, tools of the trade to be used while conducting penetration testing. So what is CIS Control 20? It is test the overall strength of an organization's defense, the technology, the processes, and the people by simulating of the objectives and actions of an attacker. Why is this control critical? Attackers often exploit the gap between good defensive designs, intentions, and implementations or maintenance. Like we know that nowadays, a lot of attacks are happening, days are coming, and new vulnerabilities are arising day by day. So we need penetration testing in our organization to be conducted periodically. Also, penetration tests are performed for specific purposes. First, usually to convince decision makers of their enterprise's weaknesses. Second, verification. That means to test the correct operation of enterprise defenses. Third, validation. The enterprise has built the right defenses in the first place. So we have three implementation groups, IG1, IG2, and IG3. IG1 states for an organization with limited resources and cybersecurity expertise available to implement sub-controls. IG2 stands for an organization with moderate resources and cybersecurity expertise to implement those sub-controls. IG3 states for a mature organization with significant resources and cybersecurity experiences to allocate to sub-controls. So let's talk more about subcontrols. We have total 8 subcontrols. Let's go one by one. 20.1, which is establish a penetration testing program. It includes a full scope of blended attacks such as wireless, client-based, and web application attacks. It is applicable to IG2 and IG3. 20.2, conduct regular external and internal penetration tests in order to identify vulnerabilities and attack vectors that can be used to exploit enterprise systems successfully. It is also applicable to IG2 and IG3. 20.3 is perform periodic red teaming exercises to test organizational readiness to identify and stop attacks or to respond quickly and effectively. It is only applicable to IG3. 20.4 is include test for presence of unprotected system and artifacts. It is applicable to IG2 and IG3. 20.5 stands for create a test bed for elements not typically tested in production. Here we have to create a test bed that mimics a production environment for specific penetration tests and red teaming attacks against elements that are not typically tested in production. Going ahead, 20.6 is use vulnerability scanning and penetration testing tools. The results of Vulnerability scanning assessment should be used as a starting point to guide and focus on penetration testing efforts. It is applicable to IG2 and IG3. 20.7 stands for ensure results from penetration tests are documented using open and machine readable standards. For example, SCAP is the open and machine readable standards. It is only applicable to IG3. 20.8 is control and monitor accounts associated with the penetration testing. So that means any user or system account which has been used to perform penetration testing, it should be controlled and monitored to make sure that they are only being used for legitimate purposes and removed or restored to normal function after the testing is finished. It is applicable to IG2 and IG3. Now let's talk more about the impact or the risk associated. So first is legacy systems. It refers to those that are no longer supported or does not receive security patches or updates. Second is inconsistent patch management. It is closely related to legacy systems, which is patch management. A critical part of maintaining IT infrastructure is the practice of updating software to address issues after the release of the affected software. So these issues are security related. Third impact is vulnerable system configurations. So usually systems are configured by default. So with a focus on availability and ease to use at the cost of security. So alternatively, administrators or systems can also make mistakes in configuration part, which can result in unknown vulnerabilities. Well, the second last is vulnerable web application. It contains application also contains thousands of lines of application code. Developers can also create mistakes, whether the application is internally hosted or developed or externally sourced. Web application penetration test can be used to provide insurance that that a certain application is not putting your organization at risk of a breach. The last and the foremost impact is password reuse or weak passwords. Even if there are no vulnerabilities across your own systems, you are still at risk. And how? Password reuse across multiple systems can mean a breach in another company can affect your systems. In the case of weak passwords like Muskan 123, simple guessing attacks can result in a breach. A penetration testing is the only method that can highlight reused or weak passwords so they can be reset. So now coming to the benefits or advantages of using or conducting penetration testing. First is it reveals vulnerabilities. Actually, it identifies loopholes within an organization's infrastructure. Second is give you an opportunity to fix vulnerabilities. So basically, security engineers can work on fixing the vulnerabilities in your network and application. This is the critical part of tightening up your security posture. Identify problems you didn't know existed. The next advantage is shows you the strengths within your environment. And again, it also identifies security controls you need to implement. Also, another advantage is that it helps inform governance and compliance improvements. Also, it allows your team to optimize incident response processes. Conducting a penetration testing also ensures business continuity within an organization. It also enforce your security strategy. Give your team and organization more confidence when you do penetration testing or red teaming exercises. Test your team's ability to conduct remediation and incident reporting. So these were the benefits which I discussed. Now coming to the tools of the trade to be used while conducting penetration testing. So we have licensed and unlicensed tools here, and open source tools are Kali Linux, Burp Suite, Zap. Commercial tools are or can be used depending on the requirement and the cost of an organization, which includes Acuinetics, NetSparker, Nessus, and Burp Suite. And Burp Suite comes up with the licensed and unlicensed version both. In the end, I would like to conclude that penetration testing should be conducted periodically to ensure the organization's weaknesses. Also, use the effective and cost-saving solutions in order to minimize the risk factor and improvise the security posture. Thank you. I hope this presentation must be very useful and very informative to everyone. If in case of any queries, please let us know over the email and post. Thank you so much.